Hey there, thank you so much for clicking. Welcome back to the channel. Hey ladies! Now, as the men watch the World Cup, I have brewed some tea for you. So, welcome. Get your tea, get your popcorn, and let's get down. It's that season again, the World Cup. Just the most viewed event in the world, okay? He won't notice your hairstyle, your dress, and he won't listen to what you're saying, okay? It's that time when you feel like frying pepper and onions just to get his attention. It's that time when all the YouTube videos and pranks will be about flashing my husband while he watches the World Cup to get his attention, farting in his face to get his attention as he watches the World Cup, wearing lingerie as he watches the World Cup, doing flips to get his attention as he watches the World Cup. That's the content you'll be consuming here on YouTube, trying to call me a million in a single in a million different ways. I guess that's why I'm feeling salty, okay? But I'm here to give you a different type of tea. I am going to give you some information to make you smart, okay? Not to worry, who cares about World Cup? I know I don't, but I love some tea. This is intelligent, groundbreaking tea, okay? So make sure you subscribe for more. How and why in the world is the World Cup being held in a desert? Johnny Harris, who is also a content creator here on YouTube, did a video on it, and I found it super fascinating, ladies. More fascinating than a bunch of people chasing ball. I guess it's because it was covering history of countries and the history of FIFA and the history of Qatar and how it became what it is. This is the kind of tea I live for. I live and I love, my darlings. And if you're a member of the Fumi Nation, then you know this phrase. I live, I love. If you're not a member, just look for Fumi on YouTube. For the ladies, if you love history, oh, sorry. Oh my god, let me catch my breath. If you love history, you will love John's video. Well, it's Johnny. Johnny Harris, not John. So make sure to go on YouTube, Johnny Harris, and just check his latest YouTube videos. He makes some really good and educative content. In this video, I'm going to omit, much of the history. I'm just going to try and summarize some of this tea. It's the story of how a small desert country with 2.9 million people. Imagine, I am here in Kampala, just a city, the capital city of Uganda, and there's 3 million of us. So, wow, this is a very small country. And apparently, most of the population are actually expatriates and immigrants who've come in to work. So the actual population is just a few thousands, maybe 140,000. I don't know. Anyway, 300,000, 400,000. I don't know, guys. Go Google. Fourth highest in GDP per capita income. All right, let's learn something. Largest known gas field in the world. My friend, these people are rich. Qataris, they're just a few thousands, and you can imagine how rich they are. Huh? Is anybody in Qatar employing? Because I'm here. All right. Qatar is strict though, you guys. You can't live together before marriage. You can't have sex outside of marriage. That's gonna get you locked up. You can't wear anything above your knees either. All right. So keep that in mind. And Qatari men wanting to marry outside must receive permission from the interior minister. Wow. But apparently, here's the funny part, ladies. Tinder is not banned. Make it make sense. There's Tinder in Qatar, apparently. For what? So, how does Qatar get this rich? Ladies, it gets rich from the extraction and export of fossil fuels. What are fossil fuels? Mainly coal, oil, and gas. 81% of the energy that the world consumes comes from fossil fuels. Mainly, as I've mentioned, coal, oil, and natural gas. You learned something. Okay. Now, Due to climate change, let's go to climate change issues, guys. Climate change, because it's a relevant issue, and CO2 emissions, the planet is being affected a lot. We are using this planet as if we're the last generation to live here. We are not thinking about the future generations. So there was an agreement, okay? It's called the Paris Agreement, which was made in 2015, where 196 countries signed a legally binding international treaty. The goal of this treaty or agreement was to limit global warming to below 2 degrees Celsius and achieve a climate neutral world by the mid of the century. It's also called net zero. And it means reducing greenhouse emissions as much as possible and compensating for any remaining emissions. Now, we're not going so much into details, but you can imagine if 81% of energy comes from fossil fuels. Okay? So we are trying to get away from fossil fuels. Remember, as I've mentioned, what makes Qatar rich? Fossil fuels. Now, keep that in mind and let's talk about FIFA. FIFA is the biggest, most powerful sports authority in the entire world. It represents over 200 countries, and each country has like sports associations that all belong to FIFA. The FIFA headquarters are found in Zurich. I'm pronouncing it in German, guys, because I can speak German. How do you say that in English? Zurich. Let me just say Zurich, okay? There are 24 powerful individuals across the five. So FIFA is divided into regional federations, and there are five regions, okay, representing each continent. And then each federation has some powerful individuals. So in total, there are 24 of them. They are the ones who decide, they're the big guys. They decide which country hosts the World Cup. And they do this through a vote. They vote, okay? And then there's a president who is on top. Now, there's a FIFA president. So FIFA does this big job, all right? And of, beautiful job getting over 1 billion people in the world to be watching the same thing. There is nothing that unites the world like that, but you can imagine where there is that, there's also money, power, and influence. Now, let's go to the money. Ching. Companies will pay endless amounts to have their logos featured: Nike, Adidas, and the likes. And you will also see in the stadiums that, there are some brands there represented. So they pay a lot of money for that. And governments will also go whatever lengths to get anywhere near the World Cup. Because why? Because for a few weeks, this single event can bring huge focus on a country. So they don't get money back. They actually spend a lot. Um, but they get what, guys? Power and influence. So every year, every time there is World Cup, countries spend a lot of money. They are willing to pay a lot. So now, why is Qatar interested in hosting the World Cup? Why is it so important? Qatar is preparing for their future, okay? Because the future is going towards fossil, reducing the use of fossil fuels. So they are diversifying their investments, diversifying their portfolios. Called diversifying, ladies. Qatar owns the Italian brand Valentino. They own an airport in Russia, the St. Petersburg airport. And apparently they even own more land than the queen in the UK, a king, I guess. Now that's a diverse portfolio. That's what we call a diverse portfolio. So how about hosting the most prestigious event in the world? And they are Qatar. They speak the language of money, power, and influence. And so does FIFA, okay? Much made in heaven. So let's speed this story up before you get bored. So there's a guy from Qatar, right? He's called Mohammed. He's part of the 24 that I told you about, and he's on a mission. Mission get Qatar to host the World Cup. Okay? Remember, this was done in 2012. 2010, sorry. So he goes on a mission and he's like, he's going to get these 24, however many he can get to vote for Qatar. Of course, he's not alone, he's representing Qatar. Now, where does he start? He goes tin tin tin, Trinidad and Tobago. There's a guy there called Jack Warner who is among the 24, okay? Big guy. Apparently, allegedly, $1.6 million was exchanged, deposited to his account before the vote. So that was very direct. I give you the money, you give me the vote. Then let's go to South America. There are also some guys there, the FIFA guys. And for them, it also claimed that they were bribed. And there is a case from the Department of Justice built a case on them. And it's claimed that they were bribed as well. Direct. We give you the money, you give us the votes. Okay? Now the guy goes to Africa. Africa, they hold a meeting in Angola. Funded by who? You guessed it, the Qatar team. It could be just an innocent meeting. I mean, do you think so? So apparently, an employee who was actually among the translators, because these meetings, they are big meetings. They have to have translators because people are speaking different languages. I think in Angola they speak Portuguese. I'm not sure. Anyway, I love it. I love Angola because I love Kizomba. Ooh, 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 ooh. So these ones were offered now the African ones. Mhm. They were offered $1.5 million each. That's what the whistleblower says. Yeah. And then she went ahead to retract that statement. And then when the FBI visited her home, she said that she was in danger. She was threatened. And then she said, well, it's true, but, so she has to watch her back for the rest of her life. And that is the danger of being a whistleblower. Well, the world we live in. Then, now this guy goes to Thailand. Thailand, there's also a guy there, one of the 24. And there they just pretended to do some gas deals. And that one, money was exchanged, not directly via the gas deals. And then another one sold his land to Qatar. Okay, way over the asking price. Now it's pretty normal for Qatar to buy land, right? As I mentioned, they own a lot of land in so many places, Singapore, whatever, wherever. So he sells his land for way more than the asking price. So let's say, for example, his land is probably worth $100,000. He got it for 1.5 million. He got 1.5 million for his land. These are just examples. I'm not sure about the actual numbers. Yes, and another one also didn't get direct cash, but one of his sons was given a job at a private hospital in Qatar shortly after the vote. So shortly after the fact. So we don't know about money exchange, but that is one thing that has been reported that allegedly happened. And then now let's go to UEFA, which is the European Federation, apparently the most powerful one. Now, the president of the European Federation is this French guy, right? So a week before the voting happens, he gets a very interesting invitation for a luncheon with the president of France, President Sarkozy. And he's like, wow, this is an invitation I cannot decline. So he dresses up, suit and tie, and goes to the French president's luncheon. Then he's just traversing, sitting. Then, alas, at the luncheon is the Prime Minister of Qatar and the Emir of Qatar in white, as they usually dress. Oh my goodness. How do they call those clothes? I have to find out. If you know, write down in the comments below. Now it's 2010 and the world just got through a financial crisis. You remember that one? The one in 2008, if you were, some of you are just too young, but You remember, if you know, you know. And everyone is stressed, including the French president. They want to get their economies, in check. So you see where we're going with this, okay? So it's like the French president is like, I need something from Qatar, and Qatar is saying, okay, we can do that. We're going to do some deals with you, but we also have some favors. That's how the world. That's how money, power, and influence works. And after so of course the French president is like, okay, Monsieur, 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 you're going to vote for Qatar. We need them. We need these guys. Okay? The economy is not looking up. We need these guys. And of course, he's the president of the European Federation. So he's gonna get some, he has influence. He's gonna get his friends to also, you know. And apparently, he also revealed that that's what happened. He was initially going to vote for US. But, I mean, what do you do when the president asks you for a favor? What do you do? it's, how could he say no? I mean, and then after all this, Qatar bought Sarkozy's favorite football team, which was in financial ruin. And after Qatar bought this team, it was now for high flying, celebrities are wearing the merchandise and whatnot. The usual game. Qatar also bought 50 airplanes from France, the Airbus, okay? Over 80 billion, apparently, according to Johnny. So, all these are things which actually happened. And then, this French guy now, who's the president of the European Federation, he was mandated to convince the rest, and apparently he got 4 votes. From 4 of his friends decided to go together with him. So in total, Qatar managed to get 14 votes. So Qatar was overwhelmingly voted to host the World Cup. And that, ladies, is how a small desert country with less than 3 million people gets to host the World Cup. The most expensive World Cup in history, apart from bribing people, they have spent a lot of money, which is money they have anyway. So why not? And usually there are some qualifications that a country needs to meet for it to be able to host the World Cup, and Qatar does not meet any. The only one they meet is having money, power, and influence, and that's why they're hosting the World Cup. The goal of a country hosting the World Cup is to spread football. So it needs to be a country with a history of football. And Qatar is building, I think, 7 new stadiums. I mean, with such few people, they don't have a culture of playing football. Where are all these stadiums going to go afterwards? Well, that is it. It's the most expensive World Cup ever. You can look at the numbers or guess down here. Comment them down below if you know the numbers. Now, back to the climate. If you'd like to know the climate implications of this World Cup, apparently or allegedly their emissions will be the same amount of they will produce the same amount of CO2 as Congo for a whole year. Yep. But they are saying that this is a carbon neutral World Cup. That is called greenwashing. It's not true, because carbon neutral cannot possibly mean building 7 new stadiums in a desert complete with air conditioning, having millions of people traveling to Qatar by what? Airplanes, and a country which runs 99% on fossil fuel. So, how is that carbon neutral, please? If you want to learn more about the greenwashing, go to YouTube and watch this channel. It's called DW Planet A YouTube channel, and the video is titled "The Other Problem with the Qatar World Cup." Okay, yeah, we are looking for problems. We are here to bring violence. So as the husbands watch the football, please remind them that it's not just about football. It's not about football. Okay?